Oh, the metal fest?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was interesting. Very interesting.
Okay, good morning, everyone. The meeting is now called to order. Hopefully everyone has had an opportunity to review the minutes that was emailed out earlier and the audio recording. Are there any corrections or additions to the minutes? If not, do we have a motion to approve the minutes, please?
So moved.
Second. It's been moved and properly second. The minutes are adopted. Thank you very much. Christy, if you can give us an update on our monthly report, please.
Absolutely. Last month, Attorney Teresa Luna discussed changes proposed by the Audit Committee regarding the ethics ordinance. Three main changes to the ethics ordinance were proposed. First, the list of covered relationship was expanded to include grandchildren. The two other proposed changes had already been addressed within the Ethics Committee's policy and procedures. It was noted that matters that qualify as ethics complaints are addressed under the ethics ordinance, which include the requirement for individuals to disclose any personal interest in matters they're involved with or oversee, prohibiting gratuities or gifts related to their official role or responsibilities, the using confidential city information, resources for personal gain, and while other complaints may be valid and they do warrant attention, they don't tend to fall under the scope of the ethics complaints. The committee engaged in extensive discussion regarding the issue of anonymity for individuals submitting complaints. The current ethics ordinance does not permit anonymity in the complaint process. It requires individuals to disclose their name and submit the complaint with a notarized signature. The main issue with these complaints is the difficulty in investigating them fully, since the only way to obtain additional necessary information from the complaint. The only way to enable anonymity in the ethics complaint process is to submit a formal recommendation to the City Council requesting an amendment to the current ordinance. The committee agreed to defer this discussion until the Ethics Committee has been reactivated. The new business we had was Mr. Nathan Reed updated the committee on the FY24 audit. There were still 3 to 4 outstanding items related to the audit. The city did receive an extension from the comptroller's office, but the budget's been submitted to the state, but the budget has not been approved. And that's where we stood at the end of the meeting.
Thank you. Any questions regarding the audit report?
When was the state budget was turned in?
September, August 28th.
And what have we heard about it since we turned it in?
They have, I've gotten comments back on our budget. There were a couple of things we got to tweak. That's one of the things that I'm working on today.
I'm probably getting ahead of the minutes there.
All right, if you can hold it until we get to the next report, that would be great. And we need to make, suspend the rules and make one adjustment to the budget, to the agenda. We're gonna allow Nathan to go ahead and give his report because he has another pending meeting. So we want him to be able to do that, and then the agenda will proceed as printed.
So the target issue date now for our audit is October 17th. Mr. Schultes and I had a nice conversation with the good folks in the comptroller's office, and they understood some of the challenges that we've been going through, and so they're okay with that. Earlier in the month, they were actually assembling financial statements. I have the draft copies of the financial statements. We have reviewed those. We have draft copies of the compliance documents. Have reviewed those and also submitted them back to audit for their final review. All of the documents went into Mulder Jenkins' final review Sunday. I'm meeting with audit at 11 and at 2. Hopefully by 2 we'll have comments from review. I don't remember what I told you the last time we were together. It was interesting. We still had trouble with interfund balances. Got most of that cleared up? No. We got most of it decipherable. We're going to spend some time actually in November clearing it up so that those interfund balances are actually, first of all, balanced, and that also the cash hopefully ends up sitting in the fund where it belongs. And then because of the way that was sitting, we were actually under-reporting about $2.5 million in cash, which is one of those things that if it were $100,000, we could just adjust it. You know, you could say this is cash over and short, but I mean it's a lot, but you know, but $2.5 million was too much, and so we actually ended up having to spend quite a bit of time, spent a good part of 2 days on and off in virtual meetings. We isolated that to a change in the accounting process when we switched from the legacy product to the new thing where medical expenses were essentially being double booked because of the way that they did. And you will find this in your when we finally get our findings in our compliance documents. There are some very large numbers in there, and it was partly because. Which almost entirely because they were doing end-of-year accruals and reconciliations and making assumptions about what was an expense and what was a cash expense and what had already been paid. And so, for example, when they reduced some of the medical liability, it was actually, they booked it as a cash expense of about $2.5 million, and in fact, it was not a cash expense of $2.5 million. It was we'd already paid the money, and so they basically hit it twice. Some of the big numbers in the findings that we're going to see are a direct result of a process change that did not change appropriately when we switched accounting systems. But, Larry, we were under-reporting $2.5 million.
So that means our fund balance is $2.5 million more.
We're still navigating that. That is exactly what Mayor Congress said. He wanted to send out a text message when I told him that. Yeah. But we're still navigating that. But we were it's better than over-reporting cash, right? Right. A lot better, right?
You still have your job.
Yeah. It's not my audit, Larry. Not my audit. This is not my audit. So that was that's the basic update. We're looking at October 17th as our target date. They are actually reviewing our budget with the assumption that we will issue by October 17th. I've got to send in a couple of other things today in connection with that. And as soon as that is issued, I will send you guys an email and let you know that it has been posted to the website, the comptroller's website. Some of you, I don't know if they send governing bodies notices of that electronically now or not. They used to. One of the questions that they asked in budget committee, the last time we had budget committee and also an agenda or work session, looking at FY25 audit planning. First of all, I am planning on taking a couple of days off after we get this done. This particular audit is integral to the proposed bond that and so there won't be a lot of breathing room in there, but we've got to get that done. Council members, we need to get that done before December 31st, just so you know. The FY25 audit, it's not going to be done by December 31st. I think all of you sitting around this table know that. Sitting here right now, it's not going to be done. We're looking at end of March is a reasonable target date right now for us there. Much of what we learned in this audit, some of the processes that should have changed have not changed to this day. Now, the upshot to that is when we change them, we know what they are. We don't have to go looking for a lot of those mistakes, but we haven't changed them now because this is what they're used to doing. The machine has been rolling along just like it did forever. But the upshot to that is it will be easy to find a lot of those errors because we're still making them. We found them, and so now we're going to work with our auditors, Malden Jenkins, and possibly another firm, and beginning in November to clean a little bit of that up and also clean up those legacies. There's two sets of interfund balances. Since we went to pool cash, there are liabilities in the pool cash fund 990 that have not balanced. They do now. And then there are those legacy liabilities, the due tos and due froms from the different funds. Those are the ones that we're going to spend some time actually getting all of those cleared, because we have no need for those anymore. And we're going to start that work in November.
Question?
Yes.
Okay. Can you make a list, share that with department heads? To me, from my outside, that shouldn't happen anymore. You know what the mistakes are, you need to hold them accountable to it. You know we made mistakes in the past, that's fine, we're moving on. And as a audit committee, how can we help you to make sure that they are held accountable, or that they know exactly what they're supposed to do?
Well,
so we can kind of check that.
The
off.
interfund balance thing is not something that anybody in the department could actually affect. It is.
Are these department like?
Right.
Are these department level things?
No.
Or above?
No, it's a process. It is a process error. So the city of Jackson attempted to simulate pooled cash before they actually went to a pooled cash system, and they did that through interfund balances. And I'm sure it worked fine, but the balances don't balance, and so obviously it didn't work fine at some point. Okay, and we want to clear that up, and then the pooled cash system does create a set of liabilities that should balance to the cash requirements of each fund, and those are easy to fund because that number here should be the same as this number down here, and the system should do that for us automatically. Some of those numbers did not balance at the end of FY24, but it was because they were continuing to do things the way they had before because nobody told them.
That's what it was.
But it's our people. It's our people in accounting.
Okay, that's what I was asking.
Now, one of the things there are several things we're going to continue to update, to train, because literally we discovered, some of our top, most useful accounting folks, I'm talking about Marcia, was just shocked because she was on a Zoom with me and she's like, oh, I didn't know this is how we were supposed to do this. Well, she wasn't there when we implemented the system, and the people that knew how to do it left. That knowledge was not passed on. And, we're going to continue to do some training. We've got one new accounting person. We're fixing to hire another accounting associate. I want to do some stand-up training with them, with Tyler. It's worth the money, I think. So they understand how the system works.
So when you bring those two positions on, will you be fully staffed? Okay.
Well, so what we're hiring are accounting associates. They are not people who understand the big picture of how these things fit together. These are not folks that understand double entry accounting. And I will be honest with you, governmental accounting is one of the few things that still does just raw double entry accounting. Everybody else is going through QuickBooks or something else, or we're one of the few folks that do that day in and day out. And the people in these associates that we're going to bring in, I want to. I don't have to explain anything to her. Nobody does. She understands. But to be honest with you, what we offer doesn't draw that kind of person. Those accounting associate positions don't pay enough to find anybody. There are some quality folks we could get, but they are not. Long term, that's a goal that we've got. We're going to have, and our accounting supervisor is going to be retiring in the next 4 years. She's fantastic, but we're going to have to replace her.
Something, and kind of going on what Marta had said, have y'all thought about putting like any SOPs in place so that when you do have that turnover, you still have that written procedure to know how to do these things?
One of the things, or first of all, there are expansive lists and notes about what they have been trained on. But not those initial people. You know what I'm saying? And so all of the new processes, you know, we just finished property tax bill. Thank you, Lord. We've got extensive notes on that process. Most of these processes that we've gone through, just down to what you click and what the button looks like. I mean, I hate to oversimplify, but you know, there's some of that. But the other thing is, I think it is useful and will be useful for us to go back and do some annual or biannual training with Tyler and say, listen, why don't you remind us about this? We only do this once a year. Let's have a refresher, you know. So I lost my thread, and I'm sorry.
Well, I agree. I think that needs to be built into your procedures. That every so often you do that training, because even if you do succession planning and you have a person who will be projected to leave in 4 years, things will have changed dramatically.
That's right.
In 4 years. And so, you know, to just kind of stay at the top of the curve, that training needs to be continuous.
And let us help if we can, but maybe we could, it seems like there needs to be steps to help you.
Yeah.
Because you know, you all work Saturdays and Sundays, and it's a big job, and then we've got an internal auditor, you know, she should be able to go behind or help her.
Well, and there are some things that we, and just to be incredibly blunt, there are some things that we need to get straightened up into a form that she could decipher. I don't mean to be disrespectful.
I know exactly what you're saying.
I mean, you know, right now there's just a lot of this. We need to be somewhat standardized before you could ask. Because I mean,
And that's a goal.
and we're moving fast enough. And again, no disrespect. I don't want to take the time to explain to you what you're looking at. You need to be able to understand it without me having to explain it. And I don't have time because it's so confusing right now.
Well, and when I've dipped and dabbled in
Yeah.
the revenue world, I know exactly what he's talking about.
Now, we're getting to a point that it will be somewhat standardized. And I mean, you could come in and look at this, but I promise you right now, if you looked at a balance sheet that printed out of the machine, you'd be going, why is it this way?
Larry and I wouldn't like that.
I mean,
We like our regular balance
you know, we got a
sheets.
14-page balance sheet for the general fund right now,
Yeah,
which is fine. But a lot of that is like you've got some liabilities that you know they're flipped. I mean, they why? I don't understand. We're getting
We're
there,
gonna
but
be able to help them.
anyway, we're getting, and I told Larry this earlier. We're getting better every day. I've told you that. It's just.
And thank you. You should be thanked, and people should know you've had your people working on Saturdays and.
I had to use some overtime. The mayor cut my overtime out, but we had to use some. So it's
call
okay. It's okay. I got a little money.
Call
to pull
him
from
and
some.
tell him to come up there and help you then.
Well,
And burnout is a very real thing.
Absolutely.
You know, so we have to be concerned about that as well.
Right.
You know, we value your staff, employees, but, you know, and we want to keep them around for a little while, so we need to be mindful of that.
Now, I walked into this building 1 year ago today.
Oh, congratulations.
Has it only been a year?
President.
And I looked around and there were several things that I thought, well, I want to clean this closet out. This is a big mess. And
It's still there.
it's still there, Marta.
Well, we knew there were issues. We just didn't know how deeply those issues.
Well, I mean, there's nothing malicious. There's nothing nefarious. There's nothing. It's just first of all, you've got decades of process onto which were bolted on new process, and then you went through a transition, both an accounting and a banking transition that complicated each other, and then we've had some staff turnover that was ill-timed, but you can't control when people come and go, and it's we're recovering and getting better at this every day, and it's funny because you guys know Larry called, was told a couple of council meetings ago, says, tell your mom, I hear from Larry about it. I hear from Larry about every 10 days and about this or that. And, I really do appreciate most of the questions that Larry asked. And I appreciate his point of view, but the other thing that I know about Larry and Marta and Ross and Paul, and I mean, all of y'all is, you don't have an axe to grind. You are interested in the success of what we're doing and want to be supportive in any way you can. And you've got enough knowledge in different areas that you can ask good questions. And those questions themselves sometimes lead to questions that we're asking ourselves. And that's helpful. And I appreciate, I mean, I can tell that you were supportive, and I appreciate that. So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
That's okay.
I'm a little.
I mean, that's our job, to figure out ways to, increase efficiencies and see if we can help. So if you identify, ways that we can assist, please let us know, and we're happy to move forward with that. Just do it.
So we've got the audit done.
No, I'm hoping to have it done by Friday.
Okay, so then the next step will be then the process of looking at what rate for us.
Well, I mean, the audit has to be approved or submitted at least before we can get our FY26 budget approved, which is what I'm actually working on this morning with auditors, because we're having to do a little estimation on cash balances for the FY25, and then based on the FY24 cash balances, you see, and then this afternoon we're meeting on final comments on that, and so that budget has to be approved or accepted, and then as soon as we can get an audit report issued Friday, hopefully we're going to be working with PFM and Best Green Sims next week to set up meetings with ratings agencies, so we can figure out the information that you guys would very much like to have. What do these packages look like?
Right.
I suspect that 2 months ago, if you had asked, that rates had probably crept up 25, 50 basis points for no reason other than the fact that some municipal debt was becoming questionable based on some economic factors and also just general market conditions. And then when the Fed dropped a quarter point the other day, I think it probably has actually had an oversized effect, and we're probably back down to the borrowing rate we were looking at in October of last year. I don't know because I hadn't asked, but I was just looking at Moody's. They do a municipal rate cap. Do you look at that?
Yeah.
And
Yes.
just looking at that and looking at the debt that's been issued in the last couple of weeks, I feel like we're back sort of in the 4.15 range. Is kind of where I'm thinking.
Is any of this stuff hurting our credit rating?
Is any of this stuff hurting our credit rating?
We've not got these reports in time.
Well, it would if we tried to borrow some money and didn't have an audit. I mean, well, you could,
Yeah.
but it'd be junk.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, we did hear from Moody's the other day. They have very quietly withdrawn their rating of us, but they will reissue their rating as soon as we turn a report in. So,
Let me, the one thing I'm getting off the bus a little bit here with fund balance. So we thought about $2 million that our fund balance was understated on the budget because we had some money coming into the state that was not questionable, it was coming.
yes,
And then, so we got $2.5 million here, which is about $4.5 million. So we're looking at our fund balance on that budget to be about $4.5 million higher than we stated.
I'm going to say possible, because there are some liabilities that we probably did not anticipate in FY24, and then there are a couple of other things, and then,
What does that mean?
well, I mean,
We're just talking mistakes, maybe.
no, it's just, I mean, we recorded it one way, and auditors said we should have recorded it a different way, and now it increased the amount of money that we owe long term.
Okay.
Just over some, how did that come out? Did that make sense?
Yes, yeah.
And so, it wasn't a mistake necessarily, it was just better advice from them. And so, I will tell you what I will do, and I'm going to do this. When we get a final report, I'm going to update, even though it won't be something I can turn into the state, that first page that shows ding, 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 we're gonna update that so that it's accurate for you. You know, the one that shows fund balance this year, fund balance this year, fund balance this year, because that'll be helpful to you. I mean, I'll just pull that graph out and send it to you, so. It'll be helpful to me. That way, when you ask me what the fund balance is, I'm like, look at June 30th and add, take about 1.7 million out of it. I don't know what the fund balance is today. Well,
we can be hopeful 3.5.
yeah. I mean, I think we are in a slightly better position than we thought we were. That is my gut. But until we get a final report, I really don't want to commit or comment on that. So, and I just basically talked for 30 minutes, y'all. I'm sorry.
We kind of
It's
expect.
important. It's important,
Lots
but
of information.
going back, I would like for us to somehow be able to help you. And everybody's brain's different, we say it all the time, but I would like to see a process that you have so you can implement to those people that are either coming on or already there to make your life easier.
Well, when we
And then
get our findings, and again, I am warning you, there are large numbers in there. Okay, the bottom line effect was not terribly great, but there are large numbers. And if you have ever looked at a governmental audit, you'll see one of the findings is material journal entries, and this is exactly what these are. I mean, they are huge. But it's because sometimes the money was here and the money should have been there. Money was there, it just wasn't in the wrong place in a lot of cases. And those are some things that we can approach together. Carolyn, we may actually look at this and workshop this rather than, do you understand what I'm,
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
because I might prefer
Yes.
not to be on an agenda, just to say, listen, okay, this is what we've got. We may bring in one of our audit friends as well and say, you know, what can we do here?
That's
And
good.
So I think that would
That's
be real
good.
good.
So,
That's good.
Thank you, appreciate it. Any other questions? Thank you, Nathan.
Yeah, we appreciate
y'all were
that.
great. Don't have any fun
Happy
without me.
anniversary.
Thank you so much.
Yes. Just good stuff.
I just doesn't feel like it's,
I'll take care of him tomorrow night. Tomorrow night.
We'll try.
Wednesday. Take care of him for his anniversary.
Thank
and
you.
y'all don't be strangers. I'm at the same place most days. Come by and see me. Oh, I have refilled my candy bar.
I
It
was
has-
just about
it
to
has-
say, I was thinking candy.
It has good candy in it. It's not that hard, chewy stuff. It's, I mean, it's the good stuff. So
Good.
thank y'all so much.
You're
welcome.
Thanks.
That's good to know. All right, let's see. We invited Kelsey to meet with us. We did quite a bit of looking at and talking about the complaints process for employees. And there are several things that are in place already. And so we invited Kelsey to come and share with us, you know, what's there. And we know that every complaint an employee has is not necessarily an ethics complaint. And so she'll share with us the information that she has, what's in place, and if there are any things that we need to be concerned about or be aware of, or we can assist her with. You want to join us?
Sure. Yep, I will.
Well, first of all, thank you for the invitation. I had a few days to kind of prepare and kind of want to share some things, but I think Dr. Robinson, you need to run on the head. Every complaint that we have is not necessarily ethics. Of course, these are two separate processes. Things around misuse of public resources, conflicts of interest, those are more ethics related. But what we handle internally are complaints in regards to discrimination, harassment, clear city policy violations, attendance, hostile behaviors, even down to performance issues. When a complaint is launched, I guess, there are several methods that we do have from a reporting structure. Of course, indirect or direct supervisors, those are opportunities for employees to address those complaints, send those to their supervisor, indirect or indirectly. Of course, human resources, they can come directly to us. We've even talked through currently some things that we, opportunity for things we can potentially increase is utilizing potentially, not a word with our chief of staff, in the event that we have allegations towards HR. We want to make sure that we have all avenues covered and just making sure that we're protected. We have an opportunity for people to report. So when that happens, an official complaint is filed, the information is collected, dates, times, the incident, what is the behavior, what's the concern, witnesses, make sure all of those are listed, and then if they've had any opportunity to potentially try to discuss it previously, what measures have already been taken to reconcile the issue. After that, HR will review the complaint and, we'll acknowledge it. We work as quick as we can to get those done. Unfortunately, sometimes in investigations, you open up one thing and now you're down a rabbit hole trying to figure out 4 or 5 more things. But we work very quick, as quick as we can to kind of resolve those. Do a preliminary screening, what's the nature of the complaint? Is this a valid complaint? And then we determine who is the appropriate investigator. There are some instances where we may hire a third-party attorney to come in and investigate some issues that we may be having. With the investigation process, again, HR is usually the facilitator of the investigation. We conduct interviews, we have the appropriate documentation, review the evidence, and then we'll make an appropriate response. Through resolution and I guess an overall outcome, HR, we're the driving factor of what the appropriate response may be, really to establish consistency amongst the city, just through several different behaviors. If this is a common trend amongst several departments, we're leading that, but we're working in conjunction with those department heads to really facilitate and issue that corrective action, whatever the process may be. And after that, we'll retain the documents, keep them in personnel files, monitor any opportunity for retaliation, and then that's kind of what the process overall looks like. I know you mentioned something earlier around anonymous complaints. Currently, we do not have a process with that. Really, HR best practice legally, in some instances, specifically even being a Title VI coordinator, we're responsible to gather as much information as we can and make an appropriate response. So I don't promise anonymity by any means, but I do promise confidentiality. I'll share what needs to be known to the appropriate parties. But that's overall what the process looks like.
You used the word HR several times.
Mm-hmm.
Could you put a name to that?
Myself.
Okay, so,
Yeah.
And I'm just saying, do you handle everything personally to make sure that it is, and then is anything delegated from you to your staff?
No. In regards to investigations,
One thing that Ron and I had discussed is that through the comptroller's office, there is a possibility or an avenue for employees to make anonymous complaints. And so what we talked about that might help in this process is to just have a link from the city's website to the comptroller's office and just indicate that if people want to make a completely anonymous report, then this is the avenue, this is where they have to go. And so that way, everything is on the city's website. So that's the point of navigation. And then, people can just specify where you go for this, that, or the other. And then that way, all of our bases are covered in terms of that.
You're referring to the fraud, waste, and
Yes.
abuse link? Okay.
And we can easily link to that.
Yes, you've got that on the agenda. I'm happy to quickly pivot to that if you'd like me to now or after any other questions.
If there are no other questions.
I have a question.
Sure.
If you do have an ethics complaint from a staff member, what do? Do you treat that the same, or do you actually move that over to like the ethics committee through the internal auditor?
Great question. Since I've been here, I have not had one, but I do understand that the process is it needs to come through the ethics committee. And of course, took a look at on Unicode kind of what that process looks like, information notarized, and then I hand it off. In the event we'll have one, that's what the process will look like.
I just wanted to make sure the handbook, that we're still updating the handbook.
We
and
are.
all be on the same page.
Yep, we are. We're meeting, I think, monthly now, just going through current policies and practices and strengthening things that need to be changed, need to be updated, need to be revised. We're in the process of creating a centralized link also on the city's website. So we're editing that periodically where employees can go directly there and see what the policy is for that. It is a working, breathing link, so we're just adding as we can.
Any other questions? Okay. Thank you so much, Chelsea.
We had talked in the last meeting about potentially using to address the anonymous component, the Tennessee Comptroller of Treasury's website. And so I, went and found that link just to confirm that it does allow for anonymous, and it does. If you go to comptroller.tn.gov, under their functions of investigations, there's a fraud, waste, and abuse page. And it talks about what's helpful is that they define what is fraud, technically what is waste, what is abuse. And they list also for CPAs kind of their obligations to report if they see so. And then under at the very bottom of the page is the fraud, waste and abuse form. And so it allows you to provide all kinds of details in terms of the entity, department, or even person. What government entity they're associated with, and as much information as you can. You can even upload any kind of PDFs or documents to help prove that. If you have anything along those lines, how you were made aware of the fraud enrollment, then you can submit it. It does not require you to put in a name or contact info or anything like that. So that may be the simplest workaround to the conundrum that we've talked about in this committee, and it might be a way to kind of address that.
How would that connect with the ethics committee?
So I would suggest, and because things of ethics maybe aren't necessarily, for example, wasteful, right? And so if you have a concern about fraud, waste, or abuse, something that isn't an ethical violation where you are using your position to benefit yourself, but you still believe that it should be raised, but don't want to put your name out there for retaliation, this could be a great intermediary step. But then if there's the ethical issue, then you would have your existing ethics process. So it kind of provides that almost like a missing middle between an HR issue and an ethics complaint, because it's not illegal to waste money, but not necessarily a good thing to do, right? And so this process and link could kind of fill that gap.
Well, I still feel like that's great, but I still feel like we're going back 4 months of how are we helping our employees if they feel like they want to be anonymous and they have an ethical issue. I think we need to fill that gap.
All right. Did you have something else?
No, I was saying, to what Ron's saying, the comptroller's deal, anybody and everybody can do that. Like a citizen, elected official, anybody in between. So to me, it kind of runs like that's always there for anybody, for all this reviews. And then our ethics committee is running parallel as well with if there are issues for elected officials and benefit, and then you got the HR department for our internal issues. And I don't know, I'm open to hearing it, but I think sometimes we're trying to tie them all or connect them all together. And I just don't know if they actually do connect in that way, almost kind of like they're running parallel with one another. I don't know if those ever really talk to each other. And I don't know if that's what we're trying to get at with the anonymity piece or not, but
I don't know, aren't we just trying to help the employees? I thought this other stuff would be fine for outside, but wasn't that the main focus?
Of what we were looking at. And employees can go to the comptroller's site to lodge a completely anonymous complaint. Right now, there's not a process internally for them to lodge an anonymous complaint. And so that would be the gap. We talked that there were some gaps in the provision. So I think what we need to do at this point, we've looked at all the evidence, everything is there, and we can see that clearly, there's a gap. And so, what I would like for us to do is take the existing ordinance and we redline that ordinance, because remember in our last action was to just wait until the ethics committee was reset. So Ron can give us an update on where we are with that.
Right.
But
I think today that got.
We voted on that today.
Right.
Yes,
Yeah.
so
Okay.
you have, your ethics committee, 7 members, 4 had expired terms. I had reached out to those members. 3 of them were wanting to be reappointed, so that's what council voted on today. So that, so now you have 6 members that have active terms. There's still 1 who had an expired term that wants to roll off. We just haven't found a replacement yet. But you,
Who was that?
Trinetta Atwater wanted to roll off. How it works is you don't technically roll off until you have a replacement, and so she's still technically on the committee. But you now have 6 active members, so you can have a functioning ethics committee. And you know, part of the thing that we talked about last month was getting that set up and then kind of having it's like a joint discussion or something like that with them first.
Yeah, I agree. Now that
Now, let's
we're
go back
building
to
that
that.
stuff.
Right, so now that we have them, let's take the existing ordinance, everybody go through it, let's redline it, see where we need to make changes to that, and then try to arrange a meeting with the chair or members of the ethics committee, so that we can sit down, I think, and go through it together. And I think right now, you're right, they are parallel, they all are, and there's nothing really that connects the dots. And the way things exist now, there's no direct conduit to the ethics committee. The complaint first has to come in, and I think point of entry now is internal audits.
If you change it back to, right now, it can come, but it's not anonymous. That was taken out, correct?
Right, and correct me if I'm wrong, but when they were anonymous, they went to an outside system, is that correct?
That's right.
Okay, it didn't go to the comptroller's office. And so, we need to decide whether or not that needs to be some form of that in place, or if it's still coming directly, complaints come directly to the internal audit, then they have to be reviewed. A decision has to be made whether or not it needs to be escalated someplace else or transferred to the ethics committee. But there's no direct submission to the ethics committee for employees or if it's something that came from the general public as it exists.
Yeah, and just to point out and clarify, on the current ordinance, it does not specify elected official or citizen. It's just wide open, any complaint. Right. It didn't specify.
Right. So, like I said, we've identified those gaps, gathered all the evidence. So the next step will be let's just go through redline that, see where we need to make specific changes to the language. Meet with the ethics committee, and then we can ask them to do the same thing, Ron, if you would.
Sure.
Just go through that ordinance redline. So when we get together, we're all, at a similar starting point, just discuss it and see where we need to go from there. And then, of course, work with Ron. Can you sit in on that?
Yeah.
Don't you think?
And Kelsey. Just gonna let Ron, if there's anybody else in city government that you feel needs to be a part of this,
Sure.
you would, please invite them. And then we can just kind of go through it and make sure that, we come out with a product that we're all comfortable with. And of course, we have to go back to the council.
What I would recommend is I'll reach out to the ethics committee and have them just come to your standing one, since you have a standing meeting. You may have a different meeting, something new. You may have a pretty busy agenda though next month because you should have an audit, so.
Well, would it be better to have a work day set up kind of for this instead of having it at our regular?
That's up to this body. to
Well,
decide.
because it is gonna be a heavy
Yeah.
agenda.
We can do that.
Okay.
So we will do that. What time would work for you? That's about, we decide to do a work day. Rather than, trying to do everything in our regular meeting.
What goals, can you set forth some goals for us to achieve for that work day?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can do that, because number one, we need to look at, the specific gaps. And then make proposals, that would fit within all of our guidelines and parameters, to just basically bridge those gaps. To make it easy for employees to lodge an anonymous complaint. We need to identify whether or not, because right now we don't have that outside vendor where people can go and lodge So we need to decide whether or not that's something that we feel we need as part of the process. Because it sounds like most employees are pretty busy. And so that's where we could use some guidance. You know, if we have to go to an outside vendor, that's a fiscal money. So where does the money come from, for that?
Right now, when it goes to the comptroller's office and all this, what, any activities done locally, do they get in touch with us? Or
Yes, they would if they think that there's something to investigate.
so they've been in touch with the mayor?
It depends. Sometimes it's our office, or oftentimes actually it's the reporter's office. Basically, as a, and I forget the title because I'm not, but the certified municipal finance director, you kind of have an ethics to report or work on an investigation as part of reporting to the comptroller on our finances. So I can tell you that Nathan has had to help the comptroller in assisting investigations already this year.
So they have those complaints?
Not a complaint, but the comptroller asked Nathan to investigate an issue in the past. Yeah. So, and it turned out, I think it was no issue, but they kind of work as almost like extensions of the comptroller. So, it depends on the issue, but mostly it's the reporting office.
And then we need to get a sense of if there's a complaint lodged through the comptroller's office, what's the timeline or a typical timeline for resolution?
I would venture to say with my interactions with the comptroller's office, it varies greatly. It depends upon how complex it is. Sometimes investigations on their end take years, depending upon how invasive it is. I'm sure some it can be having Nathan look into and answer a few questions, like the one that I know of. So.
And
Just
just
to
to add to,
It's hard to hear if you can speak up with this.
Yeah, the air turned on and it's.
yeah, just to add, I know you mentioned a fiscal note, that last program, that outside vendor, it was about $1,100 a year, and just so you.
And I guess we could put that in the audit committee budget.
Thank you. I'm just to kind of give some context to the impetus for this committee, and as you guys talk about ethics, I think ethics and fraud, waste, and abuse really gets separated into two tracks. It's under your purview, under your powers and responsibilities to provide both employees, citizens, an opportunity to be able to report fraud, waste, and abuse. At one point, the city had a link on their website that did exactly what Mr. Schultz was talking about. It linked directly to. In searching, I can't find that link unless it's moved to another page. But it used to be at the bottom of the city's homepage, and it was a simple link. Those things typically would not get reported back if they go to the comptroller's office because they're anonymous. They're going to go through their process, their investigatory process that can include city employees or not. They can show up one day and say, hey, we'd like to look through the books. So that happens a lot of different ways. I think the ethics opportunities, the system has been shut down from what we previously had. But I think those are two different things, and it would be very difficult. I don't think the comptroller's office would give us any feedback on any investigation that they were pursuing pursuant to fraud, waste, and abuse through that portal. Just to give you a little insight on that.
But, yeah. Oh, thank you. Appreciate that. Anything else?
If you're asking about times,
Yes.
I think mornings would be better for me for a workshop just because the day gets crazy, you never know. But I don't think there's any bad day of the week. Probably mornings would be better. If that was your goal, but I can do flexible.
What about everybody else? Any particular day you absolutely not available? Mondays.
Mondays are hard.
So we know that we already have some time available on the first Tuesday, maybe we can look at another Tuesday at 10 o'clock. Would that work? This is a very busy month.
Are we talking before the next meeting or after our next meeting of the
I
first
think
Tuesday?
we could meet before our next meeting.
How much time do we have to give notice?
Technically, you only have to do a couple of days.
Okay.
But obviously, this also has to work with the calendar of some folks from the ethics committee. So I will reach out to them, today or tomorrow. But obviously, I suggest looking out far enough to give those members advance.
What do you think about the 28th, Tuesday the 28th? That work for everybody? And,
Yeah.
So Tuesday the 28th, we want to do 10 o'clock? Right now, that looks. Tuesday the 28th at 10.
Should we check and see if he's still actively, Mr. Jennings? Should we
Yeah, I was going to discuss that with
really like him? I just wonder if something's going on, maybe we just need to contact him.
What time will we be?
10 o'clock.
11?
Maybe, for it to 10, we'll probably take a shot at it, yeah.
Can we change to 11? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I
that's
just jumped in your spot. I
You're
apologize.
You're just used to doing that.
Sorry.
Okay, is 11 o'clock work for everybody on the 28th? Now, where? Is this place here?
I will reserve it as long as there's nothing else reserved, which is most likely not the case.
And so hopefully, we've been talking about this for a while, we'll redline, hopefully we'll come in with some, tight suggestions.
Yes.
This is what we need to do to move forward, and then, we should be ready. And you'll contact them. and just-
Yes.
Well, that sounds good. Let's see, is there any other business that needs to come before this, committee? Not, just get a motion to adjourn. Sure.
Second.
Moved and properly second, we are adjourned. Thank you very much. We'll see you on Tuesday, the 28th at 11 o'clock.
And I apologize. I'm here.